What's up, guys? Today is going to be a little less formal of a video. I'm basically just making this to answer a question I got from a viewer that was a little more than I could type out in a comment response, but I think this might help a lot of people. So today we're going to talk about what to check, where to start when you have a car that won't start but you don't know why. So, to get started figuring out why your car won't start, you need to know that an engine needs three things to run. It needs spark, it needs fuel, and it needs compression. So if the engine won't run, it's missing one of these three. So let's talk about how to determine which of the three is missing, how to check for each one, and we're going to start with fuel. All right, just for visual purposes, we're going to use my 99 Pontiac Grand Prix today, but everything I'm going to tell you is going to be kind of universal stuff for any car. But the first thing to check out, if you suspect perhaps you don't have fuel and that's why your engine won't start, is you can go right back here to the gas cap, open the gas cap, pull the cap off and stick your ear right there, and have someone else turn the key on and off and listen for the fuel pump to run. If you do not hear the fuel pump, that could be potentially the problem. If you do, maybe move on to the next step, and that is, are you getting fuel to the fuel rail? Now, on this car, I have an aftermarket fuel rail, which is right here. But on a factory car, you would have a rail that usually has a pressure Schrader valve somewhere on it, which looks kind of like the valve on a tire that you would put air into. It's kind of built the same way. And what you're going to do next is you're going to check and see if fuel is getting to the fuel rail, and you can do that a couple ways. The best way is to hook a fuel pressure gauge to it. If you don't have a fuel pressure gauge, it would be a great thing to have. But if you don't have that, then you'll need to just push the little pin in the middle of the valve in and see if you get fuel out. If you don't get any at all, even when you're cycling the key, then you're not getting fuel to the engine, so you have a delivery problem, either a stopped up filter or a pump that's not working. If you do, you know you're getting some fuel. It would be better with a fuel pressure gauge though, because you can make sure you're getting the appropriate amount of fuel. But either way, that'll get you ballpark there. The other thing you might want to know is fuel getting into the cylinders? Are the fuel injectors working? A couple ways you can check for this. You can pull a spark plug out, turn the car over a couple times, it'll puff air at you. You can see if that smells like fuel. Do be careful with that because that's very flammable. The other way, take your intake tube off, open the throttle, or if you have a car with an electronic throttle, turn the key to on and have someone else push the gas pedal down to hold it open. Spray a little starter fluid, 2 or 3 good squirts up into the throttle body, then try to start it. If the car suddenly tries to start, that's a good indication that the issue is you're not getting fuel, because once you gave it something to burn, it tried to start. So that's a basic primer on how to check whether or not you have fuel. Next, we're going to look at spark. Now, to check for spark, what you're going to do is it's going to depend on the car what your situation is going to look like. On this car, you have coil packs, spark plug wires, and the wires go to the spark plugs. On some cars, you will have coil packs that sit directly on the spark plugs. And as far as where the spark plugs are, that's going to vary from engine to engine too. On a lot of these overhead valve engines, they're down here below the valve cover next to the exhaust. I have also seen them up above the valve cover, and on overhead cam engines, it's common for them to be in the middle of the valve cover. So locate your spark plugs. There's a couple different ways you can check for spark. If you have a spark tester, which you can pick up from any auto parts store, and I would recommend getting, you can put it in line between the plug wire or the coil and the spark plug, and it will show you whether or not you're getting spark. Otherwise, you can pull a spark plug out, connect it to the spark plug wire, lay it on something metal that it can ground to, and you can, if it'll, as long as it will stay there, don't put it somewhere it's going to fall, have someone turn the car over, look for spark on the spark plug. So there's a couple different ways you can check that, but that'll give you an idea of whether or not you're getting spark. If you've got spark and you've got fuel, the only other thing to check is compression. Now, checking compression is pretty much impossible without the right tool. So you will need a compression gauge, which just screws into the spark plug hole when you take a spark plug out. Then you can have someone turn the engine over. It'll show you on the gauge how much compression it's got. Then you can tell whether or not that's enough for it to run. Generally, if it's above 90 PSI, the engine should at least run. It may not run well. Usually healthy is like 130 to 160 or so, but either way, that'll tell you something. If you don't have that gauge, you may just not be able to check for compression. So if you have spark and you have fuel and it's still not starting, then you may, if you don't have the equipment and don't want to get the equipment, it may be time to bring it to a shop, take it to someone else to have it diagnosed any further. But that should be enough information to get most anybody who is having a no start condition started. At least this will help you narrow it down to which system you have the problem in. Then once you know that, there are further steps you can take to determine what the exact problem is. So I hope that was helpful to somebody. If it was, drop this video a like. Make sure you guys are subscribed. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.